Let's be real, dads. You're in constant demand, and a lot of times you have no on off switch. One of the things I share with a lot of dads, calm is a practice, not a personality trait. How do you practice it? Welcome to the Dad Central Show, the podcast that helps overwhelmed dads conquer stress, build confidence, and become the father their family brags about. Join Drew Solon, a leadership coach and father of five, and Ed Gow Jr., a fatherhood advocate and contributor to the Good Men Project, as we guide you through the journey of fatherhood. We'll show you how to connect deeply with your family, manage your time and energy better, and master tools to become the dad you want to be. Let's get started. If you had just 10 minutes today, could you lower your stress enough that your kids would notice? Today on the Dad Central Show, we're going to be talking about another interesting topic. And it's going to be the 10-minute reset, tiny habits that lower stress fast on the Dad Central Show. So Dad Central is a parenting podcast to reduce stress and build confidence in fatherhood. Our show, as always, is presented by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. And as always, we want to make sure, if you're watching this, many of you watch, but you're not subscribed, we want you to subscribe, whether you're watching or listening to this, wherever you're watching on that platform and you're listening on that platform, subscribe, and also provide comments. Drew has got a hand up.
Yeah, I'd also love it if you've been finding value in the show and what we're sharing. Please go ahead and rate or give us a review. I'd love to have that commentary out there. Plus, of course, it helps others find the show and recognize that it can offer value for them too.
Excellent. Thank you. This is going to be interesting. A 10-minute reset. I wonder how many dads can find the 10-minute reset these days. But what are your initial thoughts?
I love this. As a Dad Central, we talk about the 10 minutes of focused, dedicated time with your children and the difference that makes for them. Dr. Laura Markham talks about just 10 minutes of one-on-one time a day with each child, the long-term value and impact that has. And I'm always reflecting on a book I read years ago by Darren Hardy called The Compound Effect. And he has a beautiful illustration at the beginning, and I'll share it now, where he says, what if I could give you $1 million today or a penny that doubles in value every single day for 31 days? Which would you choose? And of course, if you do the math, a penny that doubles every single day for 31 days actually amounts to a little bit over $10 million. But here's the catch. It's not until day 29 that penny's doubling every single day reaches over $1 million. And what that shows is the influence of consistency compounding over time, but it takes a while. And so, yes, 10 minutes today doesn't seem like much, but if you add it up over a month, 10 months, 10 years, that is when you start to see the compounding impact and difference it makes. And so for me, that example, that story, that illustration shows you the power of just a 10-minute habit applied over a long period of time. And I think it's so worthwhile if we're willing to push through and commit to something just for 10 minutes. Those are my thoughts, Ed. What about you?
No, that's a good kickoff. And I just want to add that, let's be real, dads. You're in constant demand, and a lot of times you have no on-off switch. I know many fathers saying, I just need a break during the day. Can I get one? And then we want to address the myth. Calm requires long routines or more discipline. No, it doesn't. One of the things I share with a lot of dads, can you take 15 minutes a day just to time block for yourself, or even start small, 5 minutes? And then finally, calm is a practice, not a personality trait. It's something you got to practice. Oh, I'm calm. I'm calm. You got to practice it. You can say that, but what does calm look like? What does calm feel like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? How do you practice it? So today we're going to chat about a few different things. Why dads feel stressed. That could be a whole show in itself. why tiny habits actually work. Then we got habit stacking for dads with no margin. And then the Dad Central 10-minute reset system. So we'll first start it off. Actually, there may be one more. Let me just check. And why it changes the whole house. So let's start it off, Drew. Sorry about that hiccup there. Why do dads feel and still stressed these days?
Stress actually lives in the body, not just our mind. So we may, have some thoughts that create some tension or uncomfortable feelings in the body. But if we haven't processed that stress or processed the emotions associated with it, it's actually like energy being stored up in a bottle. It's kind of like taking a pop bottle and shaking it up, but not releasing any of the tension by opening the lid. Eventually, it kind of compounds and builds up. The reality is we talked about in our last show, there's really a blurring of lines between work and home and all these other areas of life. This 24/7 always on culture, screens in our faces all the time. There's no transitions between work, home, and our responsibilities. And the reality is that willpower based self-care fails exhausted dads. And we talked about this a little bit in the month of January, where behavior change doesn't work. What really works is identity change. And so habits are a gateway to changing your identity, because when you consistently show up or do things in a way like you want to, that habit now becomes part of your identity as opposed to a behavior that you do. So I think those are some things that contribute to why dads say stress. And the key insight here is that if a habit ultimately needs extra motivation, it's probably not going to survive your worst day. So habits need to become to the point where they're more automatic and it's who you are, not just what you do.
Excellent. Let's move on to why do tiny habits, why do they actually work?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to share about this, but I'm wondering, do you have a story or an example of where you may have applied this and it's worked for you? And I'm putting you on the spot, I know,
No,
but
no, what the tiny habits piece?
yeah,
Oh, well, I'm always a small believer. I'm not small, I'm a strong believer that it's the little things that make or break the vine. So I always look for what's the next best thing, not the next big thing. So when I'm working with and assisting fathers, they may have big audacious goals, but I say, what's one thing you can get to that goal, that next step? I always use the example of when I was assisting a father who didn't know what his kids like to do. I asked him, what do you do when you're with your kids? Oh, I just watch them. And I say, well, have you ever asked them what they like to do? And he goes, no, I haven't done that. So here he was thinking about this big thing. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I said, this tiny habit of just asking them how they're doing and what they would like to do. And it's become a regular practice now. He never thought about that before. The big goal was getting to do something with them. The small thing was the tiny habit of just checking in with them on a regular basis. What do you like to do? What do you want to do? So he's put that in his framework with his we're not working with his children.
yeah. No, it's great. I love the example. And some of the core principles of this idea of atomic or tiny habits. One, you want to shrink the habit until it fits your actual life. So another thing is you want to lower friction, not your standards. So as an example, James Clear in his book Atomic Habits tells the story of, in order to get to the gym in the morning, he would actually the night before put out his running shoes, put out his shorts, put out his socks, put out his t-shirt, and it's literally right beside the bed. So the moment that he got up, he didn't even have to go anywhere to begin to put his workout clothes on. That's a very simple thing. It probably took him less than 2 minutes to do that. So he's lowering the friction, which is the resistance to being able to do an action. And then you want to build systems that work when your energy is low. A system in that gym example might be an accountability or a partner who works out with you at least once a week, so that even if you slack the previous two, your accountability with a partner says, hey, I said I was going to be there. I'm going to have to be there. So that's a system that helps keep you moving forward. So the reality is you don't need better intentions. You need better placement which aligns with your real life, and where the friction points are. So that's really important. And this idea of BG Fogg of tiny habits is you attach your new habit with something that you currently do. And so as an example, I worked with a gentleman who we would take coffee breaks. And so he's like, I really want to improve my fitness. So what he did is every time he would go and get a coffee, he would do 10 push-ups because he stacked the new habit, exercise, with an existing habit. He was that much more effective at doing it. And of course, sometimes he'd have multiple coffees a day. He would go and he would ultimately sometimes get 40, 50 push-ups in a day when normally he'd be like, I probably wouldn't have done anything. So you need to how it works is you put your new habit with an existing routine and it becomes much more automatic. There's no extra time. There's no extra decisions. So those are some things, examples that maybe in your life, the moment that you turn the car off, maybe that's your signal to take 5 deep breaths. Or when you walk through the front door, the first thing you do then is look at whoever's there and smile at them. That becomes your new habit because you want to show positive regard for them. You brush your teeth, maybe whatever you want to attach to that, or sitting on the edge of the bed at night. What can you attach to these normal things that are part of your everyday? And if we were to systematize this, we want to give you a rule. You don't ever want to add a habit. You want to attach it to something that you're currently already doing. Does that make sense, Ed? Anything
Yeah.
you want to clarify for me?
No, I think the only thing I suggest adding on there for dads and fathers is, do you have the resources to do that habit? Like if it's, do you have the resources and how are you going to keep yourself accountable to it? Because, hey, you may want to do something, but do you have the resources? Do you need is something you got to buy or take the time, or do you need to have someone help you with achieving that habit? Because we don't have always the things we need internally to get that started. So check in on, do I have the resources to start that habit? Just a thought.
Yeah, that's why we're here, Ed. That's why we have
Okay,
our community to provide some of those resources and support for dads.
100%. Let's jump to the Dad Central 10-minute reset system.
So there are, let's see here, three core parts to this. Okay. Number one, helping you regulate your nervous system. Number two, helping you clear that mental load. And number three, this is around our body, it's signaling safety to your body, which is important in terms of reducing tension and creating clarity in terms of moving forward, as opposed to feeling stuck in what we've experienced or have been going through. So as we walk through this, Ed, what if I do number one, you share number two, and then I'll come back with number three? How does that sound?
That's fair.
All right. So step one, regulating your nervous system, the most effective, viable, and way that we've talked about before, and dads probably already know, is breathing. Okay. It takes you out of the fight, flight, freeze, reactive system, which in our hyper stressed world, we often are at, even when we don't realize it, right? That's that whole red line example, right? If you can actually bring yourself back down to, 1,000 RPMs, because reality is most days we're operating continually from like 5, 6, sometimes 7,000 RPMs. At least that's what I've noticed for myself as a dad. I don't want to speak for everyone, right? But you can reflect for yourself, dads. So you want the way you short wire that is through breathing, okay, or an actual sigh, right? There's this idea of this might sound a little woo-woo for some people. This idea of grounding, but really what that is it's putting your body in a physical position with good posture to actually open up and breathe. It's kind of like, this open-hearted position, we'd say. You could even channel the Amy Cuddy power pose idea. That could relate to it. But the point is put yourself into a good physical posture where you can actually breathe freely and clearly, right? Often with your shoulders back, your chin up, sometimes sitting with your feet flat on the ground, okay? The whole idea here of this is to take us, like I said, out of the fight, flight, or freeze. That's really important. So an example we mentioned before is, let's say you get home or you get off the transit or you're finishing up your walk home, however you're commuting or transitioning. You stop before you transition into the next place you're going, and you breathe, right? Before you open the door, before you take that next step across the threshold, before you enter into that room, it could take you 20 to 30 seconds, and you're calming, slowing your heart rate, and clearing your mind. Very important. Regulating your nervous system, step one.
Excellent. Next up, we're going to talk about clearing the mental load. Oh my. One of the things I do, and I've incorporated over the last few years, is writing down my priorities. So, and I'm not 100% perfect, but I'd say 85% of the time before I go to bed, I write down my two things I have to do the next day. What's one thing I need to do for myself? And if in a dad, what do I need to do for my family? And if you want to add something, your workplace, that's it. 3 things, nothing more, nothing less. Because research shows when you put down 10 or 11 things, a lot of research shows that a lot of times you don't get any of those things done. So when you have those priorities written down, what can wait? What's the most important priority? And also at nighttime, calm it down. Calm it down. Especially if you can get to bed at a reasonable time, that helps, but calm down your nighttime activities. And then when your day is done with your children, with your kids, relax for 3 minutes. Give yourself grace for 3 minutes before you go to bed and just say, oh, I have that time for myself. I've served my kids. I've served myself. Let me spend at least 3 minutes serving myself peacefully, relax. So that's clearing the mental load. Drew?
Hearing you talk through that, Ed, I was reminded I need to do this more. Totally reminded of that, and I'm like, man, there's so many transitions that I
Yeah.
feel like I could apply that to. So, number 3 is you want to begin signaling safety to the body. This is actually incorporating physical movement, which I mean, obviously, I love exercise and I love being physical, but this is also something that's actually simple and easy. But I don't do it enough either. So I'm really feeling convicted here, and I want to be doing these things. So, one, it could be light stretching. It could just be some simple stillness, whether you close your eyes, whether you keep your eyes open, fix it on something that's important, or just some simple slow movements, maybe a walk, a walk around. I could do loops here in my little office area, but very slowly. Ultimately, I think you want to remove any form of screens because that's quite stimulating, both from the blue light as well as with the imagery or whatever it is you might be looking. So remove those screens so that your body can actually not be your mind cannot be influenced. And this idea of once you want your nervous system to acknowledge that whatever it is you were focused on at the time, maybe it was at the end of your workday, maybe it was the end of an intense conversation with your partner, maybe it was just the end of a workout, whatever it is, you let your nervous system register that is complete, so that you can then begin moving forward onto what's next. So an example of where you could stack this onto, at the end of the day, you brush your teeth, you could do a simple short stretch. Let's shift and bring this home in terms of why this changes the whole house.
Okay, well, why change the whole house? Stress is contagious. If you haven't noticed, it's contagious, but also so is calm. We all know that stress can be contagious, but also calm. So if you can have a calmness as the leader of your family, of your children, of your kids, it's contagious. And also, our children, our kids respond to your nervous system before your words. And then also, regulated dads lead better without trying harder. I like that point. Regulated dads lead better without trying harder. So before I give a recap, Drew, anything you want to add?
Yeah, we've all had hard days where we haven't done this transition, where we walk into the house, we're kind of stressed, we're kind of tense, and next thing you know, it's like the kids pick up on it. They might become more reactive. Our partner might pick up on it. She may become more reactive, or you know, we just may not be able to. And so the reality is that this is so important. When we can lead ourselves well, we have the ability to, as I love this description, be a thermostat, not a thermometer. we and our energy sets the temperature in the home as opposed to reacts to it, right? The thermostat analogy. And I think that's so powerful to remember. Anyways, I just think I've definitely been both sides of that. So this is more from a place of, I'm walking this just like you are as you're listening. So let's continue to support each other and work through this to become more of the thermostat.
Absolutely. So let's do a little quick recap here. We talked about why dads stay stressed. We also talked about why tiny habits actually work. And then we talked about habit stacking for dads with no margin. And Drew gave examples like turning off the car, walking through the front door, brushing your teeth, sitting on the edge of the bed at night. Then we went into our Dad Central 10-minute reset system. And then finally, why this changes the whole house. So some takeaways for everybody. Tiny habits outperform big routines for overwhelmed dads. Remember, it's the little things that lead to the big things. Also, habit stacking makes stress reduction automatic. Then 10 intentional minutes can reset your nervous system fast. And finally, a calmer dad creates a calmer home. Drew, what's our resource for our family today?
It is going to be our Balanced Dad Blueprint. It is the same resource for the entire month of February, as our focus is helping dads with this whole dynamic of balancing and managing the demands of life while leading themselves well.
And before we jump out, we would like to answer your questions about fatherhood during our show. So please email us with your questions, and actually not just your questions, your success stories. If you have something that's working for you, share it with us. We'd like to hell you up. So email us at podcast@dadcentral.ca, and we'd love to hear from you and share on our show, give you some spotlight. So our last closing line today: 10 minutes won't fix your life, but it can change how you live it. So as always, I'd like to say thank you for giving your most important thing in your life, your time, to hang out with us today. As always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll see you soon. Be well and keep the faith.